Or
Good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of Narc Who's There? Help. Dana and I are both gasping for air. Today
I
we are, and
literally am.
and it's
Yes,
on me. It's my bad. Well,
it's okay. No, no bad. You fit. We what we're just talking about because people are just entering in. Yes, I felt that we needed to take a deep breath because, there are these narcissistic abusive situations that just this is how domestic violence starts and child abuse and all these things. And, we were just discussing a situation Victoria's been involved in, and I have, I used to involve myself in some things and I don't anymore. But, it's really heavy and it's really an intense. So, I'm glad that we have this show that we can help people divert or, turn around when they see a collision ahead and avoid the crash altogether. But my goodness, it just when you're in it, even when you're not participant in the situation directly in the relationship, being an outsider looking in, it's a lot.
it,
It's really, it affects the kids, it affects families, it affects neighbors, it affects the friends, it affects everybody.
this is probably one of my worst top three in-person advocacies I've ever done. And without, being specific, it's been every single day for five, now 6 days. And I was involved in a 6 hour standoff over the weekend. And I'm like, and then, the sheriffs are like, will you come to work for us full time? No. We're going to call you out on every DV. No. And I'm like, I might just be at that point, honestly, Dana, where it's like, if it's virtual and I can help, great. I love that. I really want to almost focus just on the healing and helping people get past,
Yeah.
once we're on that journey of healing and seeing the light and love and all that down the road. I'm just too old for this shit. Like, I'm
Yeah,
too
I
old for
do.
this shit.
We were talking about that, but that's why I made the decision, late last fall that I wish everybody well, but I mentally, for my peace and to
Yeah,
protect my peace, I am focusing on the healing as well. I want to get people where they're out and they're ready, because not everybody that's out is ready to heal. A lot of
that's
people,
true.
and I was one of them, held on to the victimhood. They don't understand that there's life beyond that and that their life is not defined by what they've been through. But I just, I think we need to remember that there's a lot of people out there that are still in it, like very in it. And, just one little aspect I'll throw in there before we move on. But I just have to say, as I shared with you, you were telling me more details about this. And it's interesting that one of the parties in this relationship is the one that reached out to you claiming to be the victim. But it
Which
turned
was the
out,
woman. I'll say that. The woman reached out.
yeah, that I
I
didn't
was
want
her,
to
I was her
reveal
caller.
anything.
No,
But
it's
yeah,
fine.
but it turns out the other person is actually the victim,
Which is the
but
man.
they also seem to have narcissistic tendencies.
Yes.
So it's almost like the lesser of the two victims, if that makes any sense. But gosh, the irony, but how typical of
Yeah.
narcissists to it's
Yeah.
interesting because I actually just made a comment on a post on Instagram this morning where they were talking about how, narcissists, they go to family and friends and they're the victim of you when you were the victim. And it's like, well, of course they are. Of course they are, because they cannot take accountability and you have to be the bad guy, because they're not going to go around and say, oh, yeah, I did this. And well, some of them will, but very rarely will they admit to anything. And if they did, it's your fault anyway. But
Right.
what a what a shit show. I'm just going to say it. What a damn shit show.
Girl, please. It is. And I mean, I said to the office,
Kids
I was
and
like, I need,
dogs and your kid and you. I mean,
oh, no,
it's
no,
like,
I secured Faith. No, and Faith had been out of it completely until the defendant literally tried to
right.
prohibit me from leaving a public place today. But other than that, Faith never goes on scene with me. And
No, but the
yeah,
the reality is that this stuff, when you're dealing with it, I mean, people say leave work at work, but the reality is, especially when you're dealing with domestic violence and any
right.
kind of abusive situation, you do take it home with you. I mean, one of the things, like, it when I was married to my first husband, even with my own kid, he doesn't, I would say he witnessed or was around for maybe a quarter of all the things that happened.
Yeah.
He doesn't even know the half of it, and all of it didn't even make it in my book. But we try to, when we're with our kids, be present with them. But when we're
Absolutely.
carrying all this heaviness in our hearts and in our minds, whether you're in that victim situation as a spouse and trying to still parent your kids, or whether, like you, trying to help somebody that's in a situation and trying to get out and advocating, you still carry this all in your heart, and in your mind, and it goes into your home then, and it's just this effect. And I think that's why we have this widespread. I mean, I would say this is an epidemic more so
Hands
than,
down.
COVID or anything else,
Yeah,
is like this
absolutely.
idea that people are just, this negativity and toxicity just spreads like a
Wildfire.
cancer into everything and everybody around it. And it's just disgusting.
It is.
Ugh.
So we're going to do a complete opposite. I am
Oh.
going to apologize ahead of time, but if I even gave you the specifics of the last 6 days of my life, y'all would be like, I get it. Okay, no problem. Um, yeah. And so we're gonna just spin it a little bit, and I'm gonna put the questions to the side. And what we're gonna do today is for our mental health purposes, we're gonna talk about the
Yay.
joy that you can experience once it's behind you, once you're over the
Yay.
rainbow, and you get to see that you don't have to deal with this shit anymore.
Yeah.
And it is such a beautiful, it's a beautiful view. It's a beautiful life. You don't have to deal with this. You can have love and you can have safe and easy breathing. You can breathe knowing that,
That's what it is. You can breathe.
yeah,
Yeah.
you can,
Literally and figuratively.
right. Like you can literally just inhale and exhale and just be like, it's gone.
Yeah.
I mean, the best way I explain it to people is if you've never been in this situation, God bless you, but it's like being chronically asthmatic in a room of a smoker's lounge and everybody's lit up and there's no windows and there's no doors and you're in this environment. But when you're out and you're no longer there, you're in like this huge open field and all you have is fresh air and a beautiful scenery and you don't have any of that toxicity anymore and life is so much better and you can get there. You can get there. And then you get to be happy and you get to be healthy and you get to feel better. And that is where I think we need to focus today because we haven't done that. And it's so imperative that people realize they can get there.
Yeah. And I want to, as an example, I won't take up too much time,
Oh,
but we're talking about the breathing, and my first book was called Gasping for Air. And it's not, people think it was just a title and expression, but it was a reference to the lung syndrome and the autoimmunity that I developed as a direct result of living in fight or flight mode for so long. And what I want to explain to people, because it does relate to everything you just said, again, I developed this, childhood, two narcissists raised me, marriage, 25 years with a narcissist. By the end of that, me, the girl who ran 5 miles every day and coached cross country and ate chicken and avocados and hard boiled eggs and very healthy, was told that she had a lung disease because I could barely move. I want people to understand, by the end of that marriage, I had dropped down to 93 very skeletal pounds. I could literally barely move, like my body, the best way I could describe it. And it sounds like an exaggeration, but it felt like rigor mortis was already setting in. At, like I was moving I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. The doctor said my body was actually shutting down, yet I was alive. And I had to have, my heart rate was so low that I had to have a backpack oxygen machine with the thing every single day. And to give people a perspective on my breathing, during COVID, they said if your levels of oxygen, your oxygen saturation were 93% or lower, that you were in a very serious, severe state with COVID.
yeah.
My levels at one point dropped as low as 83%.
I never knew that.
83%. I could not stand. I could not, I literally laid in bed. And God love my husband, Doug, because, I've known him a long time. So he was obviously, around during, the end of my first marriage when all this was happening, that he was there to take care of me because my ex would have left me for dead. But Doug was the one who was cooking a little bit of white rice and a little chicken, making sure I had toast, something to keep me going, and helping me when I needed to walk because I literally couldn't walk some days. Literally couldn't walk because I couldn't effing breathe. But now that I have been out, it's only been, well, honestly, it's not even been 4 years, just shy of 4 years since my ex finally moved out of that house, right? Or no, this is 2025, 5 years. I'm sorry, I can't count. 5 years, but I maybe had to use my oxygen machine 2 or 3 times last year just for like an hour or two because my oxygen was short, gets humid and whatever in the summer. But I'm healthy. I'm a healthy weight again. Things are good, but it was because of the toxicity of being in that situation. And if I had stayed, I'm telling you right now, I would have died.
Yep.
I'm telling you right now, I would have died. My body had turned against me. Even my body was telling me, Dana, this is not, we can't live in that. We cannot survive in this environment.
Right.
But I say this not to depress people, but to give people the realization. I went from being perfectly healthy to being very, very, very sick. When you have to walk around with an oxygen machine on your back, that's pretty bad. Like every day, every second. I even had to sleep with one of those stupid machines, which I can't sleep when that thing is, yeah, that's just suffocating in itself. But now I'm good. I'm good because I'm out and because I'm with a man that's kind to me. I mean, I don't ask for much. Kindness, that speaks positivity. And I think it's really important for people to understand. I know it's hard when you're in the situation. You don't see a way out. You think, oh, I just wasn't meant for this life, or God is mad at me. Believe me, I said all those things. You just have to make the choice. You have to decide, I'm done with this shit.
Yeah.
I want out, and choose yourself for once.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, you have to. And that's what you
You
need to
have
do.
to.
And it's amazing. You think that I'm in this dark place and I'm never going to get out. And I tell
Mhm.
people all the time, remember that you have survived 100% of your darkest days. And I know I sound like I'm on repeat, but
No,
that is such
that's
a
true.
powerful statement. When you think about it, I mean, I was laying on the floor going, just take me. I can't do this another day. And then Faith would kick me and be like, I'm here too, mom, because I was pregnant with her. And then I was like, I have survived 100% of my darkest days. That's a pretty doggone good, impressive record.
Yeah.
And you think about it, and then you think, you know what? So let's just start small. People are like, well, I can't go from one to the other. It's not a light switch. No, it's not. But start celebrating the little things. Like celebrate the tiniest of milestones. It's like being a mom to special needs. I never heard Faith until she was 2.5 years old. I didn't get the baby moments. I didn't get to give her a pacifier and because of her mouth and she didn't get to take a bottle. She was G tube fed. And so like there were a lot, but you know what? There's not 1 minute I take for granted. The first time I heard her was the biggest moment for me. And you celebrate every single solitary thing and the little moments that you're like, wow, I did that. Or say something like, oh, I did something I haven't done since I've left my abusive relationship. And then you surprise yourself with, I am so proud of myself because I did that. And then you celebrate the next milestone and the next. And then you're like, wow, I went a whole hour without thinking about it. There's trauma anniversaries. There's all these other things, like there's sometimes when things happen on TV, I can't watch them. But then you get to the point where it's like, I just realized I watched that and it didn't faze me. And it's
Right.
not like you're trying to torture yourself because you're not. But you can get to the point where things are so beautiful and you recognize the beauty in things. Like everything happened. Like I would never have met Dana. And I told her before we leave here, you can never leave me or you can't quit me. Because she is the sister I always, always wanted and never had. And I adore her to the moon and back. I do. And I can't say enough about her because I think she's such a beautiful person and she has gone through hell and she's come out on the other side. And I know from not personal experience, but Faith, got down to nothing in weight and she looked like just a skeleton with a layer of skin and it was so scary. I was afraid to hug her. I thought I would break her. Full organ failure. And now look at her. And it's the same thing with Dana and it's like
Yes.
you celebrate that growth, you celebrate that life, and you realize, I think I shocked her because I never, ever, ever do anything for myself. Ever.
No,
I
you
haven't
don't.
been, I haven't been on a vacation in 20
And
years.
your nails look fabulous, by the way. I meant to tell you,
I
that's
was
my
gonna
favorite
tell
color.
I haven't been on vacation in 20 years. I haven't, like nothing. And I texted her on Saturday and it was before the standoff. And I was like, I'm just tired. Something is like telling me to go do something by myself. Dad is doing something with daughter right now. They're doing some stupid whatever I don't know, video game. I don't care. I said, I'm going to go do something for myself. And she's like, what? What are you doing? And I was like, I'm going to go get my nails done. That is so out of character for me.
Yeah, it
And
is.
I'm so glad that I did because I sat there and got them done. I made sure there's no sharpness to them, which I know people are like, what? Because when I got on the 6 hour standoff, I literally, if I showed you, I have like 100 bites on me because I was outside with the pollen in there with the bugs for 6 hours. And I was like, I was telling the officers, I said, I need to go take a bath in Benadryl. And I'm so glad I can't scratch because I would have just scratched my skin raw. And
I bet.
it was just like I took a half a tube of she's gonna laugh when I show you this the Benadryl like lotion. I took half of a tube and slathered it on me like slathered this
No,
stuff.
I'm not laughing because yeah, I'm a type B positive blood, so mosquitoes and things love me, so I understand.
Yeah,
I
and
slather too.
and so like it was just do something for yourself that you
Yeah.
never ever would think about doing. Something small that you just were like, but to you it's such a big deal. It is such a big deal to do it and to hell with whatever anybody else thinks. I'm going to use my husband as an example. When we dated 25 years ago, I lived and breathed for that man. Like I believed I knew right off the bat he was my soulmate. He was obsessed with the appearance of his significant other. And so I lived in the gym 7 days a week. He said, if you gain any weight, which is a narcissistic comment. And I have
Yes.
said this to him. He was very obsessed about it. He was like, you know, I like long hair, so my hair was down past my waist. And he was like, if you ever cut your hair or gain weight, I'm gonna dump you. And here I am, the senior executive in the corporate world, and I'm an instructor at the police academy, and I'm like, what? And, I was so faithful to this man, and little did I know that his swingy dingy was in everything else. And I had not one clue. I didn't have an idea because I was so blinded by the fact that I thought I found my soulmate. He's everything to me. And the day I found out he had lied to me for 4.5 years, I broke it off instantly. And what did I do? I whacked my hair, just gone. And he was like, you're not allowed, I don't like girls with tattoos. I went and got one. And it was my very first one. And it was just like, why do we live to make others beside ourselves happy? Right? I mean,
Well,
why
it's
do we
because
care
we've
so
been
much?
conditioned. We care so much because society tells us that that's our duty. I know these are outdated beliefs about male and female roles, but I don't care. There's still people, the baby boomers and up, I hate to say, and even some of our generation, Generation X, believe that,
Yes.
this is how a woman's supposed to be and that's how a man's supposed to be. And we can all say it's garbage, which I think it is. I think just be whoever the hell you are. And if it's not okay for somebody, but I was also that person because I had two narcissistic parents that I was trying to get approval from. Then I had a narcissistic husband that I just wanted to love me. And we do what we do. We go by society's rules. We go by the rules of our house. We go by the rules, whether they're implied, written, or verbal, of the people that we surround ourselves with because we want everyone to be happy because
Right.
we as women are supposed to make everybody happy. And there are a lot of men out there too that, and I hate to say my husband's one of them that, he was the fourth of five children and a very, with a very domineering father. I loved my father-in-law, but, very domineering man who said, this is how it's going to be. And everybody better damn well listen. And when you're in those circumstances, you learn to appease. And that's what I think this world has come to is you either appease everybody or you basically live like totally the opposite way, like F everybody. And I don't know, I've leaned now in my healing more towards the, I wouldn't say F everybody, but I live my life. And
Right.
I encourage others to do the same because, one of the things I have discovered with narcissists is that I'm too much for some of them. I'm not enough for others. But when I opened my eyes and started healing, I was just freaking fine exactly how I was, just like you are, and every other person on God's green earth is just fine how they are. We are all imperfect. We all have flaws. We all have issues. We all have things. I love when people say, "Oh, I don't have mental health problems." Mental health isn't an issue. Physical health and mental health are the same damn thing. You exercise them, you maintain them, you want to be healthy. But believe me, the way this world is, everybody's got freaking issues,
Right.
mentally and physically. So nobody is better than anyone else. We're all just going through the same damn thing, rolling around in this ball in the sky
Yep.
until
Yeah.
we die. So I'm just going to be, and I want others to just be. Take out the judgment, take out the shame, take out the bull of what other people make us feel like we're supposed to conform to. I'm tired of conforming. I'm tired of norms. Yes, I'm a law abiding citizen. I believe in God. I'm not going to be some criminal, crazy person on the streets, but we got to just be. And I love that you did something for you, because the other part of it is that we're made to feel selfish if we do something for ourselves,
Yes. Yeah.
right? It's selfish. Then we're called a narcissist, and then we're called all kinds of other things. But you know what? I go back to this. I go back to the airplane. When you get on a plane and the flight attendant's doing the whole thing, telling you if you end up in the water, here's the floaty under your seat, if it's even there anymore. If the thing, the plane's going down, grab a mask, although I'll never understand that because you're going to die anyway. So why do you need to breathe? But
Same thing.
I know, I don't understand it, but they say, put the mask over yourself first and then put a mask over, they say your child, but I'm like, oh, that's nice. Because if you have three children, then you got to pick your favorite. And what about your husband? Like, he probably doesn't know how to do that either. And you got to pick your favorite person, basically. But the reason you don't put it on them first is because you're no good to them if you don't take care of you. You got to breathe, you got to live, you got to be good.
Right.
And so you need to do that. And I'm glad that life worked out that way for you, because it's like God knew you needed to do you, because you were going to enter in this very time consuming, multi-day situation. But even if we're not, even for people out there that are just, normal people living their lives. I mean, I remember the first night that I was in my house and my ex was at the first time he was not there, the first night that he had moved out. And I didn't know what to do with myself because he had always dictated everything.
Right.
And even though I'm an intelligent woman with an independent mind, I was so used to following his rules because that's how the peace was kept. That was the only way to make sure my kid was okay, that I was okay. But I didn't know what the hell to do with myself. But I knew it was dinner time. But with him, there were all these rules about dinner had to be, a meat and two sides. But we couldn't have the same type of meat on two consecutive nights, and it couldn't be leftovers, and the two sides couldn't be the same. I couldn't have two vegetables or two starches or two carbs, or I had to intermix them. And I mean, I literally like planned meals weeks ahead of time just to make sure I wasn't screwing something up. But I was like, I realized as I stood there, like, I don't have to follow his rules. Like, I am freedom means I can do whatever the hell I want. And so, my magic phrase that I still use to this day and that I tell everyone else, the magic words to say in any situation are, what do I want? It's not selfish. What do I want? And you know what I wanted at that moment? I wanted butter pecan ice cream because that's my favorite. And we had a pint of butter pecan ice cream, and I can't do dairy and I'm supposed to be gluten free and whatever. But I said, F it. I'm having a pint of butter pecan ice cream. And that's what I did. And it was the most delicious ice cream ever. And I did it for me and it made me happy. So I just say whatever you have to do to fill your little, I call it the happy jar. You can call it your heart, whatever. You got to put those little deposits in, daily, hopefully multiple times a day. Because if you're happy, if you're content, if you feel good, then that's going to resonate with everybody around you. That energy definitely spreads to everybody, your kids, your husband, all the people you encounter every day.
Right. And I am totally focused. I have nine
I know
cameras
you
that I'm
are.
watching over
I
here,
know you
and
are.
the individual, I just showed Dana my
Yeah.
phone. The individual is in my neighborhood. And so she's not on my street. And and she's like 2 miles. I mean, she's 0.2 miles from me right now. Which is what I don't understand. When this was going on and I was her call at first, she says, I want you to have my location at all times. And the officers were like, don't say a word. And I was like, I'm not saying nothing. So she gave me her location and it lets me see where she is at all times. And that's very important because she will just drive up. And I wasn't watching where she was this morning when I was at the store and she was directly blocking my vehicle so I couldn't get out. But I just pulled her up to see where she was and she's literally in my subdivision, like somewhere right now. So I'm just kind of watching to see because one of her children are here with me at the moment. So I'm just watching. But
It sounds like you need to probably contact somebody.
well, not, I mean, I can't do anything unless she actually comes here. Her son, there's a TPO in place and she can't get near her son.
Yeah,
Uh,
I understand that. That's what's wrong with the law, though. How many times have women gone to the police or men, in all fairness, and said, I'm in a situation, I'm scared. Well, we have to wait until they do, unless they come in the house, unless they actually assault you.
yeah, they've got to do something dramatic and it's not fair. It's not fair.
No,
It's trauma for this beautiful little boy when he even visually sees her. I mean, most kids at that age are all about mom, but he's like, I don't ever want to see her again. She scares me. I mean, I just it breaks my heart to see what has happened here. And I this little boy is like a little piece of heaven on earth. He's the cutest thing you've ever seen, and he's so sweet. And he I gave him this little thing that I give to kids. It says it's a little pocket hug, and it's so cute. And so he colored it in, and I said, I want you to hold it whenever you feel like you need a little bit of a hug. I want you to take it and hold it. So he looks at me and he goes, can I have two of them? And I said, you can have as many as you want. And he colored this in and he said, this is for you. I want you to have it when you need a hug from me. And I was like, oh my, like
God,
I
I
said,
just
Michael,
got chills.
I was like, Michael,
Yeah.
can I adopt him? Like, seriously, he's the sweetest, cutest little thing you've ever seen in your life. And he was just like, I love you. And then and here's the thing, he texted me last night. He has a phone. He has an iPhone.
Oh,
He has an iPhone. And he texted me last night at like 10 o'clock. And he was like, I was just checking on you to see how you were doing because I'm sure you had a very hard day. 7. And I was like, why aren't you sleeping? And he was like, I'm trying. I just can't.
well, of course he can't.
Right.
Not
And
in that
so,
mess. It's
right.
incidentally, it is Child Abuse Awareness Month. It's April.
Yes.
Um, and I think it's important for people to understand whether you're the mom in an abusive situation or you have a narcissist anywhere in your life, even if they're not physically abusing you, there's obviously, psychological and emotional abuse, the gaslighting, the manipulation. It's not just going on with you, it's going on with your kids. Kids
Yes.
are, for lack of better words and to explain it easily, kids are hardwired by about 7 years old as to how they're going to live the rest of their lives, what their ideas are about themselves, what their ideas are about others. For example, this little boy, I hope I'm very wrong, but may have an issue with women, may have an issue connecting with women later in life if
I'm
he
already
doesn't
seeing it.
heal. Right. Different things like that. But 7 is a very young age. You are hardwired by the time you are 7. And so when we have these careless people like my parents, like your parents, um, you know, it I'm 49 and I am still undoing the muck in my head that affects every friendship, every romantic relationship. It affects work. I mean, I am pretty well healed enough that I'm helping other people heal, but I am nowhere near finished. And
Right.
I don't even know if there really is a finish line. I think you just keep going and it keeps getting a little easier. Kind of like if you play piano, you just keep practicing and you keep getting better, but you'll never be Mozart or, you might come close, but
Right.
it's the same kind of thing. But if we think about that, give yourself that grace that whoever did this to you and whatever happened, I mean, a lot of the stuff that, we go through, even for people that say, oh no, my childhood was fine. I mean, my husband said that a million times over, and everybody in our small town, oh, they're such a nice family. Well, then there comes me. And and it's interesting because my husband now, like I'll look at him and I'll notice a behavior or
Right.
a habit and tendencies, and I'll be like, did something like this like I'll like say something about his childhood or ask him a question. He's like, I never thought about it. Like, yeah, that's why you think you came from a nice family, but y'all got your
Yes.
shit. They
Yes.
done fucked you up like they done fucked the rest of us. And
Right?
I don't forgive my language, people, but seriously, like it is so astonishing that even so-called nice families and people think they're fine, and no, they're not. And I'm not picking on anybody, but
No, of
I,
course
I
not.
won't share my husband's psyche and his issues, publicly, but like one small one, I'm sure he wouldn't mind me sharing that, isn't necessarily mental health, but it's like when I first started eating meals with him,
Mhm.
I would notice like it would remind me of like when I was like 1984 at school when I would put up my trapper keeper, like, stand it up and put it around. You know what I'm saying?
The
That's
Trapper
like
Keeper.
that's what I envision. What like when and my husband does this when he eats, he kind of like he's very tall and big, like same size as your husband. So he kind of like hovers
Covers.
over his meal, but
Yeah.
he puts like his arms around and he has this thing like it doesn't matter where I place everything, he pulls it all in very close and has to eat like it's like he's protecting his food. And I
Yep.
remember one day looking at him and I'm like, honey, I know you were the fourth of five children. When y'all sat to dinner every night, did like your older brothers like grab all the food and your dad like, and you couldn't get any, so you had to protect what was on your plate? And he goes, yeah, how'd you know? I'm like, oh, it's a little obvious. It's a
Yeah.
little freaking, like, and he freaks out. I'm one of those people. I came from a Puerto Rican family. Like, we all just like eat, eat, eat. I'd like, oh, you're not going to eat that, or let me try a bit and just reach over
Right.
across the table. Oh, you should see his face, like touching his. So it's interesting. And again, this is just a funny little light example, but think about how this translates to our mental
Yeah.
health and the things that we do. My husband's 60 for God's sake, and he's still carrying this childhood crap into how he eats today. And
Yeah.
there's no talking. Like when he sits to eat, I used to get upset that he wouldn't converse with me, but it's because he feels like he's got to shovel his
Hurry.
food down
Yeah.
because otherwise somebody else is going to grab it or take his plate or whatever. And I'm like, my goodness gracious, my Lord. So yeah, it was interesting. Like when we went to Spain and he'd never had a European meal where there's like 500 courses and it goes on for hours and hours. Yeah, it was like heaven to him, but he didn't understand that we all share off the same plate in European countries. You just take a little and wait for the next plate to come. But you
Why can't
know,
we do that with weight? Like, I'll give a little. I got a lot of kadunk back there, so I'll share it over this way and share it over that way.
I
And
wish I could just move the weight around my body. Like I never
I have
had.
plenty to share. Like, I'll give you a little something, something back there. I mean, you
Well,
know,
it was weird. Well, now we're talking about bodies, but like even when I was 93 pounds, I mean, I did scare people. I remember the first time I looked at myself, like really looked in the mirror and was like, holy, like I started crying and freaking out but I always had this little, like I joke around and no offense, but I always felt like a 12-year-old year like Ethiopian that hasn't eaten in months because it was like my belly stored all my fat. I was like Sandy the squirrel from SpongeBob storing all the nuts in my belly, but I had not I mean, you could literally see every vein popping out in all my bones, but I will always carry like I have this little belly that people always think I'm pregnant, which is humorous in some situations, but doesn't matter. I could be probably 70 pounds and I'd still look pregnant. It's a weird thing, our bodies.
I
But
know.
our bodies are a reflection of our mental health
Oh,
oftentimes and
great.
how we eat.
Thanks.
No, but I'm saying well, cortisol makes you gain weight. Cortisol is a stress hormone. When you're in a toxic relationship
True,
or
but I
under
mean, it
stress,
also makes you lose weight. And if that's the truth, I should look like Callista Flockhart because I should be.
well, it's different. for most people, it makes you gain. It
And I
keeps the
don't, I
weight
mean, the
on.
thing is that
For
I
me, it
don't
made me
eat.
lose.
I don't
I
eat a lot of
understand that.
food.
Right. Your body's storing what it
And I'm
does
like,
eat, though.
okay, I bet you I don't eat 1,200 calories a day. But that's not
Yeah.
the point. The point is that like my butt has its own zip code. Like I have a little kadunk back there. I think that, I'm just
Yeah, but
saying.
I have no butt. And so some people would want a little bit of a badunkadunk.
Well, I There
There
got
is
a
a
little bit.
badunkadunk.com, by the way. Don't go on it. Now everybody's going to go on it
Everybody's gonna
because
go
the
on it now.
homepage, somebody said something about that. And I'm one of those weirdos that's like, oh, let me go look. And then I'm like, oh my God, my eyes, like never
I
again.
can't unsee that. I love it. Well,
Anywho, yeah, if you
I'm
ever want to get rid of some butt, I could use some boobies and booty.
I'll
So,
give you both. I got it. I mean, when I got back together with Michael, he was like, "Where are your boobs?" And I was like, "What? They're still here." And he was like, "Yeah, but you used to be really chesty and like so athletic." And I was like, "I had a breast reduction." And that was like the best gift because my shoulder had to be replaced due to trauma.
yes.
And they were like, "You can't hold the shoulder boulders or whatever with your with the new shoulder." And he was like, "The shoulder boulder is gonna
Never.
work." And so I was like, "What does that mean?" And he says, "Well, we're gonna have to do a reduction." And I was like, "Thank you, Jesus." And he was like, "And we do a lift when we do it." And I was like, "What does that mean?" And the doctor was hilarious. He's like, "So basically, it means you won't have, your chest in your drawers. You'll never get furniture disease."
Right.
No furniture disease. And I was like, what? And he's like, you won't have to wheel them up. Like, like they're not going
Yeah.
to be down. And I was like, wow, there's something lovely. There's my silver lining in the dark cloud. And I was like, I'm good at lunch. You ready to go? And he was just like, you're going to have a reduction. I'm like, no, I'm really okay with that. Like, I wanted to be,
Yeah.
and he was like,
I know multiple people who've had a reduction and they all say, I mean, they're like, thank God, because
yeah,
whether it was knees, shoulders, back, I mean, it affects so much. I mean, they're nice to look at. I mean, if I was a guy, I'd be a boob guy, I can honestly say, because I look at a nice chest and I'm like, damn, that looks good. I wish I had that, but then I don't because like I've always been a runner my whole life and stuff. And I'd be like knocking my
black
eyes out
eyes.
if I had,
I know.
yeah. Like my sister, oh my God, that girl. I mean, from the time she was 12 years old, the bazongas on that girl, Jesus Christ. Honest to
I
God.
feel
I
bad
mean,
for
like even her
Faith.
wedding pictures, I show her, she was, oh my God, she's so beautiful. But her wedding pictures, I mean, oh my God. I mean, she is the most gorgeous creature ever created. But you don't even see that because her boobs, like they just, you can't not look at them. It's like, when women say, oh, my eyes are up here. Yeah, but when you have those, how can I not? I'm a girl and I look like it's hard not to. Anyway, yes, I'm glad that I don't have big ones, but I'm glad that you had the reduction because I don't, I mean, they're nice, but I
They're
mean,
a pain because when you're big
yeah,
chested and you lay down, they go like side to side and they hang, and I feel bad because Faith is little like you. I mean, she's
yeah,
tiny little and she got them and she was just like, I told her, I said, when you get
yeah.
older, if you want a reduction, I'll talk to you about it. Like seriously, because she looks like a porn star. There's no other way to say it. I mean, she does.
I've seen in a couple, or even when she comes on to say hi once in a while, I'm like, my goodness gracious. Because she is
She
a little thing and she's got these big
she is so top heavy. And like if she goes, around the house, I'm like, you will like at night when it's
just like
bedtime,
a weeble wobble.
she swaddle waddles. I call it swaddle waddling. And I tell her, I'm like, babe, when you're in the house at night, if you had a shower, there's no white t-shirt, we're not headlighting, you can't headlight. And I'm like, you've always got to make sure those are covered up. Don't don't walk around in a tank top. And I was like, without a bra on, because you could hurt somebody. Like that's no.
Ugh, that's
And she's like,
another,
Mom.
yeah,
And she was like, Mom. And I was like, I know, I'm sorry. It wasn't intentional that you got them. I promise you. And
yeah,
she's like, but and she's the tiniest little frame. I was like, oh, she's gorgeous. I
yeah.
mean, she's freaking gorgeous. But holy crap, and she's like, Mom, I love my body. I look good. Yes, yes, you do look good. But if anybody tries to pay you for anything, I'm gonna go a little redhead
Yes,
viral for a minute.
yes.
But oh, people are like, and men are like, oh, I love big boobs. Carry them around for a minute,
Yeah.
like Seriously, carry them around and then you won't because they're
Well, it's just like men love having sex. I mean, who doesn't? But women are the ones that have to carry the babies that are made as a result, whether they're planned or not. And,
right.
that's not as much fun. And, uh,
You take something the size of a watermelon and squeeze it out something the size of a lemon and you complain to me later. Like, are you kidding? Just
well, I just think every man should be at some point, laid down, ass up, and have his ass butthole torn open a little bit, like 3 or 4 inches, like we're torn open, and then sutured, and say, okay, come when you can't leave the hospital till you pee and poop. You have to poop
right.
too, and then go out in the world. And yeah.
And you'll also bleed for another month, but that I mean, seriously. And then it's
Yeah,
like,
like
oh, I've got a
hemorrhage. That's not
toothache.
bleeding. That is hemorrhaging, but
Right.
yeah.
And then like I have a toothache, I'm in bed for a week. I have a man cold. I can't do anything. Are you kidding me? Here we are with our period and a cold and allergies and a fever, and we're still functioning. We're doing everything, and you have an itty bitty little toothache. No, no.
Well, that was my ex. I mean, talk about, well, when you're with a narcissist, everything's about them. But yeah, my
Right?
ex was always like, poor him, poor him. And I think probably the first time I realized, I mean, I think I always knew he was a dick, but the first time I really got upset with him, like really angry, well, there were so many times, so I can't say the first time. Anyway, now I'm thinking like everything's rolling in my head. But I just remember I had pneumonia. I was prone to pneumonia. I got it every year, and they would not give me the darn pneumonia shot because I was too young, and you can only have it every 10 years. So I am laid out. And if anybody's ever had pneumonia, it is the
I
most
have it.
god awful,
Brutal.
horrendous. Oh my God. You literally feel like death
Yeah.
might be better. And it
You'd have
feels
to
like
feel
you're
better.
dying.
Yeah.
It is so awful. My son was maybe two, roughly, and it was bath time. And I mean, you can't even keep your eyes open when you're that sick. I was so sick, like I mean, I was on the couch, and then next thing I know, I was being woken up by my ex. Oh, our son needs a bath. Can you go give it to him? Well, no, that's your job. I'm like, I am deathly ill. And nope, I had to get up and give my son a bath. And what did my ex do? Sat on the couch and watched TV.
Yeah.
And I was just like, wow, I guess what I'm saying the first time, that was the first time I realized that all his crap was, that it was never going to be about me. I would never be considered.
Yeah.
Only he would. Because he was, yeah, oh, sniffles, I'm staying home from work. I'm like, really? Really? Yeah, stay home from work. And he's drinking his Miller Lights and watching Impractical Jokers because that's all he pretty much did with his life. So, yeah, fun stuff. And this
Mhm.
is the stuff we have to heal from. And, even if that's the worst part of a relationship, it still affects you.
Of
You
course it
get the
does.
frustration, the anger, the resentment, the grief, the grief of mourning what you thought it was and what will never be, and all this stuff. It's a lot.
It is a
And
lot.
people say, well, then if it's so bad, why do you stay? Well, we can have a whole probably 10 episodes on why women stay, but
Yeah.
I don't care who you are. You don't even have to be married. You don't even have to have kids.
Right.
You could have a dog. It's not easy to just up and walk out. Most people can't afford another rent, another mortgage,
Right.
another household of utilities, and
No.
dividing medical insurance because one may be insuring both people at their job and the other person now has to pay for it. And, at least here in Illinois, they don't give out that state aid very freely. And it's not cheap, let me tell you, to pay for medical care. And you don't even get medical care even when you pay for it. But, it's just not easy. It's not
It's
that
not.
easy.
It's not. Well, I'm glad we got a chance to divert a little bit, and we need to do that more often. I think that we are just getting more and more questions and comments and thoughts, and so we're gonna have to like get back on it. But I want to thank everybody for listening, and I have a cute little one who wants to come off camera and say hello to Dana. So I want to
Yay.
thank everybody for listening and tuning in, and we will get right back on answering questions and thoughts on the next episode. So keep your light on and realize that you are worth fighting for and you can get past all of this and you're not alone.
You are not alone. We are here with you. Love y'all. Peace out.
100%.